So we've been talking this morning a lot about theoreticals. We've been talking about academia, research, and migration, and these are really, really important discussions to have. But I want to change it a little, okay? I'm not going to talk about migration, but I invite you to draw your own conclusions in terms of the work that we're doing and how it can contribute to the work around migration and internal and internationally. What I do want to do, though, is I want to take you on a bit of a journey this afternoon. I want to take you away from cold and snowy Stockholm. And we're going to the highlands above the Rift Valley in Kenya. We're going to go down to the lake shores of Lake Victoria. We're going to go to the arid drylands of northern Uganda. And we're going to go to the mountains of Somaliland. Because what I want to actually do is talk about the work that we've been doing as the Agripreneurship Alliance in partnership with SIANI. And I want to introduce you to some of our friends and colleagues in those places that we've been working with and talk about real-world impact of the work that we can do. I don't want to talk a lot about the Agripreneurship Alliance as such, apart from that we're still quite new. We're just over a year old. We are a Swiss-based non-profit association. And we're basically a bunch of volunteers who got together after a couple of years of research, and we had a crazy idea, which was how can we support the development of entrepreneurship in agribusiness in Africa? What can we do, coming from the global north, to support our friends and colleagues in the global south to encourage and support young Africans to develop businesses within agribusiness? And what I mean by agribusiness is any place from the farm to the fork and beyond. What business opportunities are there for young people? And I know I've only got 12 minutes. So we worked with some colleagues in Nairobi, a brilliant little organization called the African Management Initiative. And their expertise is in blended learning and online learning platforms. And we approached them with the idea of taking one of their existing programs, which takes people through a short course, which results in having a real-world applicable business plan, and transforming that course into an agribusiness course. We took a rapid prototype approach. It wasn't the perfect course, but it was a good starting point and a really good place for us to learn from. And so this course is embedded in Africa, and particularly embedded in East Africa. And one of the first things that we did was develop the course, working with our colleagues, and then we ran a training of training program. So in 2018, we worked with 5 different institutions. And on the picture up here, we've got some representatives of those places. If I can introduce them, on the top left, as you look at it, we've got Maureen. Maureen works with Becky, and they are members of what was then a youth agri-hub that was linked to the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture in Kampala. And we were invited to work with that group because they were transitioning from being a group of young graduates who were interested in agriculture and agribusiness, and they were transitioning from working under the safe umbrella of ITA into becoming a fully functioning, independent business. And it's been a really interesting journey. We then have the 2 Dixons, Dixon and Dixon. They work with Egerton University, which is a really well-established university in Kenya. As you go up the Rift Valley, you go past Nakuru Lake, you turn left, and it's on the slopes there. And the left-hand Dixon, he's currently just about to start his PhD looking at dependency within the dairy industry in Kenya. Florence, you might have heard of before. SIANI had a members meeting in Nairobi in November. And we were really delighted that Florence, who comes from Laikipia University, also in Kenya, was able to come down to Nairobi and make a presentation and talk about the work of the Agripreneurship Alliance from her perspective, coming from a very small, very new university. It's the kind of younger sibling of Egerton University, and the impact that the course has had on their students. And then we have Basil on the left at the bottom. Basil is a beautiful guy. He's very quiet, softly spoken. He comes from Gulu University, which is in the north of Uganda, quite close to the border with South Sudan. So the area is very dry, very arid, significant concentration of refugee camps from South Sudan. And the university, to me, is really interesting that it seems to be one of those universities that brings students from across Africa to study. So the course there had participants from Zimbabwe, from Guinea-Bissau, from South Sudan, as well as Uganda. And finally, we've got Godi. Godfrey is Kenyan, but he works with the Igad Sheikh International Technical Veterinary Training School, which is a bit of a mouthful. I will refer to it as ISTVS from now on. And ISTVS is a very small university. It awards degrees through Makerere University in Uganda and Nairobi University in Kenya. And it's in the mountains above the coastal plain in Somaliland. And it's a hard landscape to work in. So these are our friends. And these are the people who do all the hard work. I just take the credit for it when I can. And we took them through a 4-day training course to introduce them to a short course which we called the Entrepreneurship and Agribusiness. It's a course that is based online, so all of the learning materials are common, means that we can have a common, consistent curriculum that's offered in all locations, but it's facilitated within their own universities. And it's facilitated on a group work basis. It's experiential learning. As you can imagine, a lot of African universities in particular still adopt a very didactic teaching approach. Just what I'm doing now, standing at the front of a room and sharing my knowledge. What we wanted with this course was the opportunity for people to actually learn in a flat way, that the facilitators contribute, but the young people bring what their knowledge and skills are as well. And so it enables a commonly shared curriculum that's working across 3 countries to be locally contextualized, which we thought was very, very important. And we ran 5 courses last year, 1 in each location. Each course, we aimed for 20 students on each course. Some courses started with 24. The smallest course was at ISTVS. But we had some really great results. And can I introduce some of them to you? What we did, we were able to find a bit of additional funding so that each group or individual who completed a program had the opportunity to submit their business plans in the hope of winning a $1,000 startup award. And to me, $1,000 is not a huge amount of money. But when in Uganda, an average salary can be as low as, average income is as low as $1,200 a year, then $1,000 is quite a lot of money and a substantial amount that can either launch the business or act as leverage for them to bring in additional funding. So we had all sorts of business ideas presented to us. We had honey businesses, we had cassava producing businesses, we had fruit juices and fish farming and mushroom growing and all sorts of things. But these wonderful people up on the screen are the people who were awarded prizes. What I should say is we're still working with these groups. We've basically been able to find people who can mentor these people through the next year. But we're also mentoring some of the other projects as well, because we think that virtually all of the business plans that were presented to us had real potential to become real businesses. And that was an important part of this. But if I can talk to you about who we've got up here, I'm going to start on the bottom right for once. We've got Fahad, Joyce and Bilya from Egerton University. Their business isn't launched yet. Hopefully it will be starting in September. They're still finishing their degrees. But they've identified that there's a real demand in Kenya for good quality fish. The Kenyan government recently stopped allowing imports of fish freshwater fish into the country, which are predominantly coming from China. And so there is a real demand for fish at this moment in time. A lot of the fresh fish that is consumed is taken from the lakes. So you have a natural resource which is being oversourced at the moment. And what they want to do is develop a small fish farm, and which will enable them to provide a good supply of high quality fish that's using solar power, that's using recyclable water and so on to sell the local market. Rita in the middle, pork processing in Uganda, is very keen to capture the market, particularly looking at restaurants and high-end facilities, because pork processing is not happening very much in Uganda at the moment. She's developed a value chain which is really effective in raising her colleagues from small village farms out of poverty, and she's processing the pork in humane situations, and hygienic, I should say. Shura, Noura, Amina, and Ahmed in Somaliland, they're setting up a tomato farm. And a tomato farm might not sound very interesting to us. They live in an area where all of the farming is either camels or goats. 90% of the fresh vegetables are brought in either from Ethiopia or from Somalia. And so the idea of producing tomatoes, which are an important part of the diet in that area, is really important and can really capitalize on local market capture. In the middle, Jemima, Lucy, Herbert, and Robin are in Gulu. They wanted to produce fresh juices that could be sold on the university campus. They recognized that lots of people are drinking high sugar carbonated drinks. Let's provide something which is fresh, which is locally produced, which is being sourced from local farmers, and that contributes to people's diets. And the last one on the top left, Laikipia University, David, Rispa, Vivian, and Nellius are going to be setting up an organic mushroom farm with the idea of initially providing local markets, but they've got ambitions to start selling their product to export. So some really interesting ideas here that are both meeting local needs and contributing to value chain development. I will quickly pass on this one. Just to say, we've also developed with some partners, Teach Manta Fish in Uganda, a series of 3 business startup guides. These are interactive worksheets, and we hope to be launching these with SIANI probably in March this year. So we'll be talking more about that. We're interested in a few things. We're contributing to Sustainable Development Goals. We're looking at businesses that do good. We're looking at businesses that create wealth, businesses that provide access to good quality, safe foods, and we're looking to encourage the development of businesses led by women. Gender equality is really important in terms of rural development. And we're doing this through enabling people to create work. As you can see, we've got quite solid plans for 2019. One of the exciting things for us is we're currently taking the pilot course that we had last year and developing it now as we speak into a new final course. And we're able to take on the best of academia to do this. And you'll probably be aware of these 2 research papers. One of them is saying that diets have been too heavily focused over the last decades on basic carbohydrates. We should be looking at nutrition security, nutrient-dense foods. So that's something that we can build into our programs. And with the Lancet Commission, we're obviously looking at diets that are good for people and good for the planet. So how does sustainability and environmental issues as well as individual diets come into the program? We were asked what we learned. Lots of things. You can read some of them up there. The biggest thing is there's always a camel, okay? Wherever you go, there is always an opportunity to learn something new. And hopefully when I'm working with the young people that we've talked about, they're learning something from me. opportunity for me to share my skills, my knowledge, my experience, but I'm learning from them, I'm learning from the environments that they're working in, and I learned something from this camel that I did not expect. I'll tell you privately if you wish. That's me. Okay, that's my presentation. Please do look at us on our social media and so on. And